Hi guys, hope you are well. Okay, we're going to brew a really delicious, super fruity, super simple, tropical mango and passion fruit beer. The idea here, guys, is to take advantage of a lactic acid producing yeast combined with juice forward tropical fruits to brew a tart, refreshing fruit beer. So with summertime on the horizon, it's no better time to get out the Grainfather G40 to brew something fruity. Later in this episode, I'm going to be chatting to yeast expert Philip Nutt from WHC Lab in County Wicklow. Philip is going to be telling me about their sour yeast, which I'm going to be using on this brew. Now, I'm also going to get to chat with Cillian, the owner of Larkins Brewing Company, about the anticipated release of their new fruit sour beers. And I'll be getting to try those beers later in the Beardy Hunter session. So what is a fruit beer? BJCP characterised this style as a marriage of fruit and beer, but still recognisable as a beer. The fruit character should be evident but in balance with the beer, so not as forward as to suggest an artificial product. The beer has an intentional acidic, tart or sour taste. Traditional beer styles include Belgian Lambics, German Gose and Berliner Weiss. Right, you guys, we are all ready to go brewing this delicious mango and fruit sour beer. I have my Grainfather G40 all set up with the required amount of water, which is 26.5 litres. I have treated that water last night. I conditioned my malt and I milled my malt earlier today, so that's all ready to go. Good start adding. And of course now I have my wooden paddle and I have my backup metal paddle for chopping later. Don't mind me, guys, I'm the weirdo brewer. First and foremost, I use Morris Otter as my base malt. It's prized all over the world for its incredibly rich and moorish ales that it helps create. I find it's always flavourful, it's easy to brew with, and it returns that characteristic malt body that's made it famous for more than 50 years of barley cultivation. Daisy is asleep right there, and Daddy has to be quiet. Shh, thank you. Chateau Blanc white wheat malt. This malt enhances the peculiar taste of wheat beers. It's mostly used for the making of wheat beers, but it's also being used in the making of barley malt based beers thanks to its protein level that gives the beer a fuller mouthfeel and enhanced head stability. So my temperature is 69 degrees Celsius for this mash. This mash is considered the higher end of the saccharification rest. That basically supercharges enzymes known as alpha amylase. If perhaps you're someone who just watches brewing videos and that's about as far as you'll go, you'll just watch them on YouTube. I always mention this part, and actually commercial brewers and home brewers alike will say the same thing. It's one of the best stages, I feel, of the brewing process, because I mean the smell is just, I'm not going to say aroma, this is just more smell of, I guess, porridge, cereal. It's lovely. You never get tired of it. Like, see, that's lovely there now. I've no dough balls. But to make ultimately sure I've no dough balls, I get out I'm gonna call this my brewing sword. And I just set the pipe on top, just like so. And I get my lid, stick on my lid. Okay, so I've added my grains, and yeah. Oh yeah, I was asked by somebody recently, is there anything you would change or upgrade on the G40, or you could go back to Grainfather and say, do you know what would be a good idea? Dust from the grains gets on this screen. If they had a little wiper that just kind of went zoop, 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 that'd be very helpful. Okay, so that's me mashing away now for the next hour. And then after that, we're going to do our super sparge. That's what I call it nowadays, super sparge, because it is a super sparge. I wasn't a fan of sparging. I know I mentioned this before, but yeah. I like sparging now because I guess it's over in about 10 minutes. And because this is such a loose mash, you're gonna sparge faster. We'll see. All well. So I need 17.2 litres of sparge water into my kettle for this one. And again, I'm gonna treat the water with phosphoric acid and a candom tab. Well, half a candom tab will do it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is my mash finished. I can now proceed to my sparge. Right, so guys, it is time for the Beardy Hunter session. Now, before I'm going to try any beers, I'm going to connect with Cillian Fahey from Larkins Brewing Company in County Wicklow. Cillian was kind enough to send me the new range of Larkins sour beers. So without further ado, let me connect here with Cillian. Hey Cillian, how are we keeping, man?
Hey Glenn, how you getting on? Good, man.
Very good now, very good. Listen, first and foremost, thanks a million for sending me down the new sour beers, which I'm going to try after this quick chat with yourself. Cillian, let's begin from the start. And when I say the start is when I first met yourself, which was at the 2018 All Tech Festival in Dublin. A mutual friend of ours, Mark Malloy, would have introduced us for the first time at that festival. Mark being a great advocate of craft beer here in Ireland. And if you don't know Mark through craft beer, you might know Mark from Vikings and Valhalla. Make sure to follow Mark. I have his details there on screen. Cillian, would I be right or would I be correct in saying that was your first introduction to the Irish craft beer market, that you were selling beers at this festival?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was our very first day selling our very first beer on, I think it was March 2018. Yeah, exactly.
And how has it been going since?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun, as being involved in brewing should be, as you can imagine. It's definitely a far cry from when I had short hair, sides and back, was wearing a suit every day and taking the tube to work. So this is much more fun. And there's definitely been this big progression where we sort of started out. We had these ideas of doing like all these different lagers and things like that, and IPAs were maybe not we weren't planning on being IPA forward, and since then we've really looked into different beer styles and different directions that we can explore with flavor combinations, and going away from maybe the classic idea of what beer is, and that's been a lot of fun.
That absolutely does sound like a lot of fun, Cillian. And it sounds like you're living the dream. It's great for somebody like me, an amateur home brewer, to connect with professional commercial brewers to hear their story. And you being in a similar situation where you were a home brewer for a couple of years with that dream of one day starting up your own brewery and for it to be a successful brewery. And it's great to hear your story, and it's great to hear the success of the story. Thanks once again for sending me down these new sour beers. I can't wait to try them. But before I do, tell me a little bit more about these sour beers.
So, yeah, I mean, look, there's sour beers and there's sour beers. There's sour beers that will like nearly make you cry because their pH is so low.
Yeah.
And well, obviously, it's not just about pH; it's about the balance that you have with the sweetness. With these, we were really looking at, the question is, who are you selling to? And with these beers, we were really looking at selling to a kind of a slightly wider market, not mass market, but more just sort of like a wider craft beer market than just the people who are looking for super sour beers. If they want them, you can get them barrel aged and they are great. But these ones, the philosophy behind these was to have something which is sour, but balanced with just the right amount of lactose. So it's not sweet, more just refreshing and sessionable as well. So even if they're in the mid sixes in ABV, you could still have a few of them. Whereas, when you have a beer that's like super sour, for me, I love them, but I can't have loads of them. That's kind of in the sourness where these are. And the fruit, the challenge always with fruit is to try and retain the fruit characteristics without them, fermenting fully out, and without the fermentation blowing off the aromas.
Yes.
So that's always the challenge.
And do you add to the fermenter kind of near the end of secondary or mid secondary, or when?
Yeah, tail end of secondary fermentation. We're adding the fruit then, because we don't want the aggressive fermentation. Whether it's fruit or any of the other kind of aromatic additions that you might make in a fermenter. And I know that some other breweries could add them in BBT as well. They're not always adding them in the FE. We add it in the FE just because it's just so much easier to clean and get the beer back out again. And then it goes through a little bag filter before it goes to the BBT for us. So yeah, we tail end. We want a nice leisurely fermentation. We don't want anything too aggressive.
Cillian, thanks a million for taking time out to chat with me about the brewery, about your new sour beers. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and it's always a pleasure to try your beers, whether those beers being your core beers or new beers such as your sour beers. I'm excited now to try these after this call. Cillian, once again, thanks a million for sending me these beers. Thanks for your time, and best of luck.
Appreciate it, Glenn. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, Cillian. Right, so guys, and welcome to the Beardy Hunter session. So I have my beers here from Larkins Brewery. Now, whether I get through them all on this session, I'll definitely taste one or two of them. So we have 3 acid passion sours. We have a raspberry sour, a mango sour, and a passion fruit sour. I'm gonna randomly choose one of these just to leave out of the equation, and I will try the other 2. So look, we'll go for the middle one. We leave you here, and now that narrows us down to a raspberry sour and a passion fruit sour. Let's go with the passion fruit sour. We'll give this a go. Nice golden color. Oh, that's a very delightful aroma. You can, you can get the acidity on the nose. I get the passion fruit. The passion fruit is it's light enough, but it's very kind of sparkly. It's very fresh on the nose. Okay, and now for flavor. Yeah, you're hit with a lovely bite. A lovely bite of the sourness. It's tart. It's not, as Cillian mentioned earlier on, there's sour and there's sour. Yeah, this is sour, and it's just at a beautiful level. That's a great beer. That's a great beer, Cillian. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, should we move along? Okay, clean glass. Well, rinsed glass. And now we are into the raspberry sour. Again, this is 6.4%. And on the back, it says rose pink, summery, refreshing, balanced, and raspberry. Get on with this bad boy. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh man. I'm in love with that colour. Oh man. Oh man. It's just such an appetizing sensory experience to get once again. Okay, I'm getting funny enough, I'm getting rose. I know that's the colour, but I'm certainly kind of getting very kind of floral notes on the nose. Rose, summer. That's a great summer drink. Of course, raspberry. There's something else in there now that's... Oh yeah, it's kind of citrusy. And the aromas, it's light. And what I love about this is you get the, you can get the sweetness, you can get the acidity, but it's light on the nose. Mm. Ah, that's super. That's super. That really is. It develops well on the palate. This is what I would call a drinker. This is what I call a sipper in the sun. A sun sipper. A sun sipper. Mm. That's fantastic. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's a great one. Color is amazing. The body is amazing. The profile, again, very well balanced with the sweetness. I've tasted quite a few sours where the sweetness just kind of overpowers the bite of the tartness. The acidity is kind of sitting in the background. The balance, and Larkins are just so well put together at getting this right, is that balance. What happens then is when you get the balance right, you get that hallmark stamp that just puts your name on these beers, and that's what Larkins are really good at doing. Cheers to the sours, guys. Cheers, Larkins. Thank you. So I was meant to do this video last night, Sunday night, but I was out for the first time in over 2 years with my brother-in-law Ron, and we were in Cork City. We went for some burgers, and then we went to Crane Lane for a gig. I, in my teenage years, was a big Nirvana fan, and there was a Nirvana tribute band who were playing in Crane Lane, and we had a great night. That was Saturday. Today is Monday, and I just wasn't in the right frame of mind to record the video yesterday, and I woke up this morning, sore throat, aches and pains, and I was like, oh no, are these symptoms now of COVID? But no, they're symptoms of Saturday night from all my singing and all my dancing and all my feckin' moshing. So you can see with the innovative grain basket down here inside we've all our perforation, and down here all the way around the edge, so we've 4 places of perforation. I'll just bring up the camera and show you the opposite side. So you can see here, right up to here, so we've 4 lines all the way down to the base. So that's what's making it much quicker to sparge. So you can see, the perforated holes here and then down here. So the sparging is fantastic and the efficiency is fantastic on the Grainfather G40. Okay, so I just want to flatten that out before I sparge, because I don't want it channeling into pockets. I want it nice and not pushing it down now at all. I'm just kind of getting it even. So for anyone who's new to the videos and new to all grain, sparging is the process of rinsing the grains to extract as much sugars, fermentable sugars, from the grain. I see a lot of brewers, home brewers on Instagram and YouTube who have very fancy ways of sparging. If you have a fancy way of sparging, please leave your comments down below, plus links to your sparge methods. Thank you. So I just made a mistake, not with the brewing. I posted a picture on my Instagram account, the Beardyman craft beers, and I made the mistake of hashtagging YouTube, and I had all these YouTube promoters. One guy was like, "Hey man, pay me $100 and I'll make you famous." No. We are almost there with the sparging. Oh yeah, guys, do you like my art? Freddie Mercury and the Beatles. My own creations, by the way, digital art. I got 25 prints, so they're limited edition prints. Glenn is upselling here now. Freddie Mercury, signed by myself. I think I've about 7 left of Freddie, and I've about 10 left of the Beatles. David Bowie. Who else did I do? Ed Sheeran. I sell them, well, In Ireland, I sell them framed for 35 euros, and internationally, I sell them unframed for 20 euros. So guys, as you know by now, I'm using sour hour yeast on this particular brew, and that's made by the guys at WHC Lab in County Wicklow. And I'm going to connect now with Philip Nutt, who's an expert in his field, and he's going to tell me more about the facilities up there in Wicklow and the sour hour yeast. Hey there, Philip, how are you?
Hi, Glenn. How's it going?
All good, all good. Listen, thanks a million for joining me on this this segment about yeast, and it's great to have a professional yeast expert to give us some context to this video. Before we get into yeast itself, Philip, tell us a little bit about WHC Lab and your role in particular.
Well, we're a quality control company, and we also specialize in yeast manufacture. So we're kind of a European version of the American yeast labs over there. So we ship all around within Ireland, UK, all around Europe. So we specialize in dried and liquid yeast, and we also do lab testing for breweries. And my role is I would be the technical salesperson. So I deal with any troubleshooting, any recipe development, strain selection sort of thing. So I basically troubleshoot and provide advice to breweries on a daily basis, and home brewers whenever they email in as well.
Excellent stuff, Philip. So tell me this, what would your recommendation as a professional be for souring beers?
Well, there's many different ways of producing sour beers in a brewery, and I suppose it'd be what works for one brewery might not work the best for another one. So it's whatever you're most comfortable with. So you can use lactobacillus was the kind of traditional way. You could either use a kettle sour or a mixed fermentation. Some people don't like doing a mixed fermentation, fermenting with the lacto, because they have issues with cross contamination of equipment and stuff like that. So they might just use a kettle souring method where they will pitch a lactobacillus on top of wort, and then a souring process takes place, and they come in the next day or the day after, and they will boil up the wort, and by that stage it will be sour, and then they will just ferment it normally. This new sour hour yeast is kind of a different step. I suppose on a commercial brewery front, it makes a lot of sense because it doesn't tie up the kettle within the brewery for a couple of days. Yeah. It also means that you can use hops within the boil. No issues with that. You can dry hop, all the rest of it. So this sour hour is a non-Saccharomyces species. It comes in dried format. I sent you a sample. We only have
thanks a million for that.
Commercial breweries at the moment, but there will be homebrew packs coming. But the yeast breaks down sugars within wort the same as any other brewing yeast, but as a byproduct it produces ethanol, lactic acid. So you will get souring and fermentation at the same time, so you get the nice tropical fruits that's produced with this yeast, would also get the nice pH drop that you'd be looking for when you're producing these styles of beers. And you can basically produce the wort like you would any other wort, but when you use this yeast, you'll create a sour at the same time.
Excellent. And would you consider this yeast kind of beyond that tart sourness, kind of close? Is it in between tart and sour?
Well, it actually depends. So if you were to use lactobacillus, usually what happens is lacto will keep souring until the lacto starts killing itself.
Okay.
So you would normally get down to that 3.2, possibly down to as far as 3.0, depending on how long you leave it. Whereas because this yeast uses sugar, it's all derived from the actual makeup of the wort. So if you produce, say, if you put it into a 145 gravity wort, then it's only going to go so far. It'd probably go down to about 3.3, 3.4, which some people find it sour, some people don't, that sort of way. Whereas if you're putting it into a 170 wort, it can get as low as like 3. Okay. And then it'll kind of get all a bit too acidic. So it's kind of, unlike lactobacillus, it's quite, you know, you need to really look at the malt bill to see where your final pH is going to be.
Philip, you're a fountain of yeast knowledge. Thanks a million for all that, and particularly special thanks for sending me the brewer's edition of Sour Hour. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I've made some sours before, but I'm betting on big things for this one. I know we've discussed as well that I must come up to Wicklow, must come up to the lab, and that we can do maybe an episode on yeast, everything to do with yeast, because I know I learned so much from that.
Absolutely. We have nearly 400 strains in the bank, so there's so much to talk about. So yeah, and I can kind of give you an idea where we're going with new stuff as well. So brilliant. Anytime.
Excellent. Listen, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. Philip, thanks so much.
No problem. Cheers.
All the best, Philip. Thank you. And this will fit on top. Genius. Okie doke. Yeah. Okay guys, here is a question for you. What do you do with your ouch. Ouch. That hurt. I don't even remember the question. How do you burn your arse? Using the G40 or maybe on the stove? I don't know if I leave that in. I leave it in. Okay, no, sorry guys. The question was, what do you do with your spent grain? Do you chuck it away, or do you give it to a farmer, or do you give it to somebody who owns hens? There's a friend of mine, his name is Cathal. He's a skin vet here in Middleton, and he owns maybe 10 or 12 hens, chickens, cockerels, and once I'm done with the spent once I'm done, it still hurts. Once I'm done with the spent grain, I just put it in a bucket, clean bucket, put the lid on it, and give it over as quickly as possible. Now I'm not going to be giving it over tonight because it's it's 10:30, and the hens will all be asleep. Okay guys, so with 20 minutes left in the boil, I'm going to add my lactose. I'm going to stand over the steam and burn my face. Right, so my boil is complete. It's just a case of bringing it over now to the sink, connecting up the counterflow wort chiller, sorting out my fermenter. Where's my fermenter? Right here, yeah. And then pitching the yeast. We're nearly done. And then stick on my pump. Grainfather 101, guys. These things work so much better when they're switched on. So much better. You can see the clarity of this particular beer is quite good, especially after it goes through the hop filter. Like, it's coming out so clear into the fermenter. You might recall on the G40 that I used to put in the hop net, the large hop net that's no longer a requirement now with the G40. And that hop net was a bit of a nightmare to clean. So that's knocked 20 minutes off my time. Oh my God. Guys, thanks so much for watching. That's it, that's a wrap. I will on the next video show you how this beer progresses. It's always tiring at the end of a full brew day, but on top of that then I have the YouTube video to make. So without you guys I wouldn't be making these videos. So thank you so much for sticking with me. And my numbers are going up, and I'd love my numbers to continue to go up. If you're watching this video, if you're new to the Beardyman channel, please make sure to subscribe and to hit the bell for more notifications on my upcoming content. I want to say a big thank you to Philip from WHC Lab. Some excellent information there on yeast and quality control and so forth. And I also want to say a big thanks to Cillian from Larkins Brewing Company and for sending me those fabulous beers. Until the next video, guys, let's brew this.